As an atheist, it can be immensely frustrating trying to persuade a creationist to examine empirical evidence when they're told from a young age that their belief is true no matter what and to never doubt it. Because of this, atheists often get a bad rap for becoming angry or argumentative, but arguments usually create animosity and build walls. In 2013, Dr. Peter Boghossian published the book A Manual for Creating Atheists, which detailed a far less hostile way to persuade people out of harmful and dogmatic beliefs using questions rather than heated debate or argumentation. He called the method Street Epistemology. One early adopter of the method, Anthony Magnabosco, has been testing it out and filming the results. They have been astonishingly effective at sowing doubt and fostering a healthy level of skepticism. This week I had the opportunity to interview him. I'm here today with Anthony Magnabosco. He is an atheist activist and YouTuber, and he runs a channel on Street Epistemology. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Technically, you're hosting me, even though
That's right. You were here in my backyard in San Antonio, Texas, and up until now, it was very rainy and overcast, and I think we got a little bit of a break in the weather, so this should be real nice.
And it's just overcast enough that we're not getting too much background sun.
Yeah, and I know we wanted to go out and actually do some street epistemology today at my new spot, but the weather was just so bad.
Hopefully, it's good enough now that we can.
I was thinking maybe we can go out and do one or two talks. It'd be fun.
Yeah. How many do you normally do in a day?
Oh, so I don't go out every day.
Okay. But when you go out, do you get like 4 or 5 at a time?
Oh, sure. It depends on how much time I have. I like to go out when I have at least 2 or 3 hours available. If I'm rushed, if I only have an hour window, I probably wouldn't even go out and have a talk because it might take me 30 minutes to have a decent conversation, and then we can be into it and really hitting a nice high point, and then I have to leave. So I don't like to go out unless I have a really good, a really good window available for me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about street epistemology. What is it?
Well, street epistemology is a conversational technique. It's an approach for having a talk with somebody about a sensitive topic, something that they hold dear. It's part of their identity even. And it's a way to have a conversation with somebody so that you can totally understand the methods they use to arrive at a belief that they hold in a way that doesn't cause them to shut down or be confrontational or want to argue with you.
Mm-hmm. So it's a way to arrive at truth through questioning?
Yes.
Cool.
That's essentially the goal. It's not so much about tearing down a belief that a person has as it is identifying whether or not you're holding a belief that is actually true. So yeah, it's a pursuit for truth. I like to call it that because that's exactly what it is. And it goes both ways. I may actually be harboring beliefs that are not in line with reality. And if that's the case, I would like to know about it. And I think street epistemology is probably the best way for people to help me discover that I'm actually holding a belief that's not true.
So why street epistemology? Like, why not? I mean, I just figured that, you're an atheist. Every atheist is an angry person, right?
There is a stereotype out there, and I still get angry. Don't get me wrong. Just ask my kids. But no, I mean, and even talking to believers, I can find myself slipping back into those angry atheist ways. But
just because not because you're mad at them so much as frustrated with the same ideas, same questions that just keep popping up over and over.
You do hear a lot of the same arguments over and over, but that's not what upsets me. What I find when I look back and say, boy, I really got upset, or I really flew off the handle there, it's almost always because a person is so sure they're right that they're unwilling to consider alternatives. That is a big thing for me. I
closed-mindedness.
That closed-mindedness, that stubbornness that you often see in believers or even atheists. It goes both ways, like I said. I've run into a lot of atheists that are absolutely sure that there is no God. Now, it depends on the definition of God, and I might even agree with some of those positions, depending on the definition. But it's that fundamentalist attitude, that certainty, that I think is potentially dangerous.
So a lack of humility, in a way.
Probably a little bit of that. It's more just doubling down on something because you're absolutely sure that it's true.
Well,
and an unwillingness to even consider alternatives.
Would you ever say, though, that there's a point past which you can proceed with absolute certainty in anything?
I don't think you actually can.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I could be absolutely certain about anything.
Well, I mean, obviously, we have to, you can't walk outside with the fear that gravity's going to stop working and you're going to float off, or that, suddenly everything that we know about science and medicine just reverses itself. There are certain ways that we have to live our life, if not with absolute certainty, with a relative level of certainty that allows life to be functional.
Sure, I'm on board with that. Like, yeah, when I walk out the door, I have a tentative understanding of how reality works.
Because when I tell people that I'm an atheist, oftentimes I get that, oh, how can you be certain that God doesn't exist? Prove it. I'm like, well, first that's shifting the burden of proof, but at the same time, there's Gnostic and agnostic atheists, and I think most atheists I've talked to fall within the agnostic category, where you don't know for absolute certain. But
right, but I think when people hear the word atheist, there's so much confusion about definitions. Agnostic, atheist, that type of thing, that they just automatically assume that we're saying that we know that there's no God. That's usually the classic misunderstanding of the word atheist that I hear.
Yeah. So what was it that in the early days that there was a particular point when you just were like, I want to go out and do this, I want to give it a shot? How did you get into it?
That was about 3 years ago. It was a combination of discovering Dr. Peter Boghossian's book called A Manual for Creating Atheists, as well as seeing videos of atheists engaging with theists over YouTube, on YouTube videos, and watching them argue and thinking there's got to be a better way. And then I discovered Peter's book, which purported this way of street epistemology, that you don't have to argue with people. You can actually change people's minds, or at the very least, plant a seed of doubt to help them later reflect on a belief that they're holding and maybe even change their position. Yeah. That was intriguing to me. So it was essentially a combination of those things coming together, and me also wanting to do something for the atheist community. What can I do to help other people? And that just seemed like the perfect mix of everything that I wanted to do.
That's cool. Do you ever run up against people who, because I know that doubt, especially within the Christian community, has a stigma that goes along with it, whereas in every other circumstance, people tell you to be a little skeptical, think critically, examine the evidence before you jump on board with something. And that's whether it's a conspiracy theory or something like Bigfoot, aliens. Why do you think it is that within religion that doubt is so stigmatized?
That's an excellent question. I don't really know. Some Christians, some religious folks, Muslims even, would argue that they're encouraged to doubt. But generally speaking, I think my experience is that believers, when you mention doubt, if you use the D word, that if you ask them, have you ever doubted? They would immediately say no. But you can rephrase that type of question. And if you say, have you ever questioned? Or have you ever wondered about something? Just a simple reframing of that question could help a person bring up a situation where they actually did question or they did wonder about something.
So it's exactly the same thing, just finding ways that are less, carry a little bit of a less of a charge to them.
Right. And then you can always shift back to using the word doubt. But I view doubt as a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Doubt is a gift. Doubt is a gift. And I think people should be encouraged to admit that they are doubting something or wondering or questioning about it. Yeah. And there's something in the religious circles that doubt is often seen as threatening, as something that you should never do, or you should be ashamed if you had doubted. And that's problematic.
It's not just like a contrarian who's constantly saying, no and disbelieving, but who's at least just skeptical enough and thinks critically to...
Yeah, but that's the thing, like, people that believe in gods might not admit that they doubt that belief. Some do. But they wouldn't bat an eye if you asked them if they ever doubted something that happens regularly in their life.
Like what?
Well, like if that, let's say a spouse might be cheating on them, or a spouse is faithful, they might doubt that, or they thought they put their dog away, but they weren't quite sure. Like we experience doubt all the time, but there's something about it when it's in the religious setting that it's discouraged, I suppose.
That's fascinating. I was just thinking the other day about how in no other circumstance, if something is true and something is real, would they discourage you from doubting it or looking into it. So like if I say, I am the president of the United States, and you're like, I don't believe you, and I actually am, well, it's in my best interest to tell you, like, go and look at the facts, and you'll see that it's true.
Sure.
But it's only when the inverse is true, where I'm lying to you what I say, and don't you dare doubt it, and don't you dare question it.
Yeah. There's some beliefs that are just off limits, so to speak. But it's interesting, too. I've had lots of conversations with people about all different kinds of beliefs. And I'll oftentimes give people the option of picking the topic. And when they pick a topic that I would say is safer, for example, karma, if you were to say in a public address or to a friend in public or even a group of people that you didn't think karma was real, that you didn't believe it, you wouldn't be ostracized. But if you were to say the same thing in the United States in 2016, it is actually quite possible that people might be a little shocked at that.
About karma or about God?
About God.
Okay.
About God.
Like if you
admitted that I didn't believe in a God. So there's something, again, there's just something off limits about that God belief. But I've had talks with people about karma that wouldn't hesitate to say that they think karma is made up. So it's okay to doubt other supernatural claims. But when it comes to these God claims, they seem to just hold fast.
That's interesting. Or even if you doubt their God, but as long as you believe in a different one. Because if you tell someone, well, I don't believe in your God, but I'm a Hindu, but I'm a Muslim.
Right, then you get a pass.
Then it's okay.
Yeah, in fact, then that's great because some people would say, well, that's wonderful because I'm right with my God belief and you're okay with your God belief too, even though they're completely different gods. You get that relativism.
But all an atheist does is he says, well, I believe you that his God's not true, and I believe him that his God's also not true.
Yes.
So even though they have that commonality with both of them, the fact that they don't believe in the one
can be problematic. Yeah. Yep.
That's fascinating. So what would you say are the barriers of entry for someone who wants to go out and practice street epistemology?
The main barrier to entering street epistemology is just a willingness to do it.
So they don't have to film it.
You do not have to film it.
You can do it in a bar, restaurant, college, dorm.
Most every conversation where someone is using street epistemology is not being recorded. They're just organic conversations that come up, or they're happening over social media. Someone posts a meme, and then a conversation ensues, or there's something over Twitter. Yeah, the vast majority of the people using this method is they're doing them not recorded. So barriers to entry are very small. You just need to want to help people. So if you have the inclination to want to help your fellow human, and help them get rid of a belief that is probably not true, or ask them to use this technique on yourself, then it's ideal. It's perfect.
You have some guide videos, don't you, that help people walk through?
Yeah, I've created some tutorial videos based on some of my earlier encounters. Those have been out there for about 2 years now. So we talk about barriers to entry. The resources that are available are huge. There's a whole vast library of people, not just myself, but several other people that are recording their encounters and putting them on YouTube. Yeah. There's tutorials. There's an SE private Facebook group that you can go to that doesn't cost anything to join. There's a website. There's a guide. There's even a free level of Boghossian's new app, Atheists, that you can get.
Yeah, what is the Atheists app?
It's pretty cool. It's an app that runs on your Android or iOS device.
Okay.
It mimics the story from Plato's Escape from the Cave, where you're descending into a cave and the questions get harder and harder. But essentially, it's an app that sits on your mobile device where you can find yourself in these different scenarios where a believer says something, and then you're presented with different responses. So as you go through it, you realize what is an ideal response and what is a poor response. Not the best response, because you can reply with a million different responses. But based on the up to four responses available, which one would be the ideal thing to say if you wanted to actually practice street epistemology? And then you're actually informed as to why that is the correct answer or why it's the incorrect answer. It's neat.
I've noticed on your channel sometimes you utilize silence pretty heavily rather than just, bombarding someone with facts and an overload of information. You'll ask a question, get an answer back, and then sometimes even pause afterwards to let them think about the answer that they just gave you. Would you say that silence and pauses are important in the SE method?
Absolutely. I think they're critical because far too often when we're having a talk, especially about something that we might disagree on, I'm waiting for you to finish before I can tell you how wrong that you are. In a conversation when street epistemology is afoot, it's generally all about why you think your belief is true and how you got to that belief. What methods did you use? So understanding somebody is critically important. And those pauses are huge because they allow me to process what you've just said. They allow me to formulate a summary of what you've just said. I can respond back to you. You can think about it. So yeah, the pauses are huge. I've said a couple times before, but I think the best conversations on my YouTube channel are the ones where I've spoken the least amount.
Well, also, from both perspectives, one, for you to kind of contemplate what they said and then formulate the best possible answer, as well as for them to mull it over.
Sure.
Cognitively, our brainstem, the emotional side of our brain, like the amygdala, fires off much quicker than the prefrontal cortex, which analyzes and rationalizes and thinks it over. So, there's a benefit in that regard to hesitating, because it prevents you from just giving a quick gut reaction or gut response, which often escalates, versus something that's thought through.
Sure. There may be some truth to that. In my experience, going with the first thing that comes to my mind might not be the best response. So, taking a few extra seconds lets them think about what they've just told you, but it gives you a chance to respond with something that might be more appropriate to uncovering the method, the reliability of the method they used to get to their belief. Yeah. Pauses are huge.
So if people want to find your work, where can they go?
Oh, it's very simple. Just go to my YouTube channel, which is Magnabosco 210. If you want to chat with me, you can hit me up on Twitter. Is probably the best way. I have a Facebook page, which is Magnabosco 210.
What's your Twitter handle?
Magnabosco.
Anthony, thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure.
It's been awesome.
Thank you so much for coming down and chatting.
Guys, go check out his channel, and whatever you do, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this interview. Please help me on Patreon if you can. And if all the pros outweigh the cons, why wouldn't you subscribe to my channel?